When I cautioned my wife, Sarah, about her extravagant spending, she shockingly took all sorts of my belongings from my room and threw them away in the trash. I thought I was devoted to my in-laws and Sarah, but it seems she thinks it's okay to treat me poorly. I can feel myself falling out of love with her. Understanding this, I began preparing to leave the house immediately. My name is John Smith, and I'll turn 43 this year. After graduating from college, I worked in sales at a local business until last year. My parents passed away from illness when I was in my 30s, and now I live with my wife, Sarah. I met Sarah, who was 32 at the time, at a matchmaking party, and after about 3 years of dating, we got married. We don't have children, but we have been leading a fairly happy life together. However, the clouds have begun to gather over our life recently. I like eating out for nice food and have been posting videos about it since I was single. Last year, I quit my job and decided to become a video content creator for a living, earning money using an advertising system called affiliate marketing. I also put effort into social media and recently have a decent number of subscribers on a video streaming site, earning several times more than I did as a company employee. Of course, I quit my job only after I was able to make a living from video creation. But Sarah didn't seem to think highly of me working from home. You can't earn money by playing around at home. You're a man, so you should work properly outside. Are you crazy? Sarah seems to view me as a bum for quitting my job and working from home. She has often urged me to change jobs since I quit. I've explained many times that I'm seriously engaged in video creation and social media management. Why can't you accept that? No matter how earnestly I pleaded, my feelings didn't reach Sarah, who looked down on me for staying at home. Why don't you stop staying at home all the time and start job hunting? I work part-time 5 days a week. Some of my friends' husbands even say it's fine for them to be a full-time housewife. I'm really jealous. Sarah completely doesn't believe in the world of earning from home. I have been giving her a fixed amount of money for living expenses every month, but she assumes I'm taking out the money from my savings I put aside when I was single and doesn't believe I'm earning from home. Please believe me. I'm working hard and earning enough for our living expenses. I can even show you all my earnings this month if you want. Man, even if you show me, I'm sure it's some kind of trick. And even if it's true, there's no guarantee your income will continue. There are no bonuses if you're not a company employee. So quit this unstable job already. When I quit my job, I honestly talked about my feelings to her. I had hoped she would support my work. However, she completely denied my work from the beginning. Even after I resigned and was living off the income from video streaming, she still denied it. Therefore, I wonder why she denies my work but uses the money I earn. From her perspective, her part-time job at the grocery store is hard and a brain work. But I'm also earnestly striving to make a living from video streaming through trial and error. Of course, it's not comparable, but I respect and acknowledge her work, so I wanted her to understand mine in the same way. Why can't you believe in my work in me? I've been explaining so much. I've been giving you the same amount for living expenses as before. Isn't that proof enough that I'm earning from home? It's impossible to earn income from such game-like activities. Work means going to a company and earning a salary. What you're doing is just an extension of a hobby. Hearing Sarah's words, I was stunned and speechless. I felt like my efforts were being trampled on, and I couldn't think of anything else in my head. When I was a company employee, I gave most of my income to her for living expenses. Even now, after resigning, I give her the same amount. I was able to save enough money during my time as a company employee without revealing my income after quitting my job and making a living from video streaming. My income increased several times, but I continued giving her the same amount for living expenses because I thought she would spend more if I gave her more. She never believed me when I said I was earning from video streaming. You better not take your job lightly. I really can't understand your spoiled way of thinking. No matter how much I pleaded, Sarah wouldn't budge, and I sighed in exhaustion. It's a waste of time and energy to fight such a meaningless battle. Our relationship continued to deteriorate. However, despite the worsening relationship, I felt something off about Sarah, who seemed oddly cheerful. My bad premonition came true. I found that my savings were decreasing rapidly, and the clothes Sarah wore seemed increasingly expensive. On top of that, she's clearly been going out more, using drinks with friends as an excuse. I instantly realized that Sarah was splurging our money. She probably thinks that I'm just taking out money from my savings and that I'll get a proper job once it's all gone. For now, I'm okay as long as I'm earning from my video streaming, but I'm shocked at how Sarah has changed. It's disheartening to see the money I worked hard for being spent so frivolously. But then something even more disheartening happened. One day, the doorbell rang, and there stood my in-laws. "Sorry, Sarah's at her part-time job right now." "No worries, she gave us the go-ahead. We've decided to move in with you starting next week. We came to measure the room for our big furniture." I was astounded by this sudden announcement of cohabitation. "What? I haven't heard anything about this. What do you mean you're moving in?" I protested in panic, but it seemed Sarah had made this decision without me, and my in-laws had already terminated their rental lease. That night, I confronted Sarah when she came home from her part-time job. "I never agreed to live with your parents. How could you decide something so important on your own?" Despite my raised voice, she was nonchalant. "What's the big deal? You decided to quit your job on your own, right? So I made this decision on my own too. Plus, my folks suggested moving in. They said it would be hard for us to manage household chores with both of us working. They're so considerate, unlike you. I wish I'd married someone like my dad." Watching her walk back to her room, I sighed deeply. Who compares their husband to their parents like that? I had discussed quitting my job with her at length, but she hadn't listened and ended up saying, "Do whatever you want." Yet, in her mind, it seemed I had quit my job on my own accord. As a result, I had no choice and found myself forced to live with my in-laws. "John, could you lend me some money?" "But I just gave you some the other day." I'm not exactly rolling in dough here. My in-laws began asking me for money behind Sarah's back right after they moved in. It appeared they had gotten into gambling and needed more than their pension and savings could provide. Their offer to move in was probably a ploy to save on living expenses. Sarah thought they were concerned about our well-being, but it was clear they were after my money. With Sarah working part-time, she couldn't afford to give her parents any allowance, and she'd be shocked to see how much they had changed. That's how much she admired her father when he was still working and her mother who supported the family as a housewife. Wanting to avoid conflict, I found myself unable to refuse my in-laws' requests and frequently gave them money. Between my in-laws' leisure expenses and Sarah's splurging, my savings and video streaming income were slowly dwindling. The money I worked so hard to earn disappeared like water in others' hands. This reality was taking a mental toll on me. Reaching my limit, I decided to talk to Sarah before bringing up the money issue with my in-laws. "Hey Sarah, don't you think you've been spending a bit too much lately? You're always going out for drinks. You don't need to buy so many clothes and cosmetics just because I'm earning." I seized the opportunity to address this while her parents were out, but she just glared at me intensely. I braced myself instantly, but she didn't scold me. Instead, she headed to her room. I wondered what she was thinking, but the next day it all became clear. She had taken all my belongings from my room and thrown them in the trash. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop it!" I raised my voice in shock, and she looked me in the eye and said, "I'm just taking out the trash. Parasites should leave the house." I couldn't understand what she was saying at first. If anyone was acting like a parasite, it was her and her parents. Anger surged within me. "Parasites? I'm the one earning the money we live on, right? Don't act all high and mighty over your petty earnings. You never work. Plus, this house was paid for by my parents. You're just a stranger living here. A parasite, so please just leave. My parents are living with us now, so we don't need you." She gestured dismissively at me like shooing away a stray cat. Indeed, my in-laws had helped financially when we built the house. That's why I felt obligated to give them money. I thought I was doing my best for my in-laws and Sarah, but it seems Sarah considered me someone she could treat poorly. When I realized this, I felt myself falling out of love with her. Understood. When I said this, she had a satisfied look on her face, but I didn't pay her any mind. Instead, I gathered the few belongings left in my room and left the house immediately. I decided to sell unnecessary items and live in a hotel for a while. I continued my work from the hotel, preparing for what was next. A few weeks after leaving the house, I was awakened by a call from Sarah. She sounded incredibly frantic, trying to tell me something urgently. "Sarah, slow down. I can't understand what you're saying," I said, rubbing my sleepy eyes. She spoke slower than before but was still panicked. Where are you? You took money out of the living expenses account, didn't you? And now my parents are asking me for loans. What's going on? I had a feeling this would happen. My father-in-law had gotten heavily into gambling, and it was going insane. I figured they'd turn to Sarah for money once they knew they couldn't get any from me. I told her the truth in a cold voice. I'm not living with you anymore, so of course I withdrew money from the account. And about your parents, they often asked me for money. Maybe now they want it from you since I'm not there. She was shocked. I had no idea. I thought they were living on their savings and pension. They even said they still had savings. Your parents probably had some savings, but I guess it's not much left since they're into gambling, I said. Sarah gasped in shock over the phone. What? Gambling? But they're living with us to help with our expenses. When I told her about her parents' gambling addiction, her voice cracked in shock. Well, maybe they moved in with us thinking they could get us to support them, I continued, sharing all my pent-up feelings. I couldn't refuse them because of the debt I owed them for helping us build the house. It started at some point they got bold and began asking me for money for gambling. That's when I finished telling her everything about the money I had given to my in-laws. Sarah was at a loss for words. She was clearly shocked by the gap between her idealized parents and their current state. She seemed to have wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, and her outdated values were clear from how she yelled at me for quitting my job. In fact, when we decided to marry, she had said she wanted to be a housewife, but I wanted her to work whatever she could, so I had asked her to at least work part-time. Maybe she was splurging as a way of relieving stress or getting back at me for not letting her be a full-time housewife. What should I do? I don't have money to give to my parents, and you haven't transferred this month's living expenses yet. Do it quickly. I don't have enough money for my expenses. I was astounded that even now, she was only worried about her own spending money. It seemed like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, depending on others for money. I could have comforted her, but I felt no love for her anymore and said coldly, "Why should I pay for your family's living expenses? We're practically strangers now, right? No need to pay for a stranger's living expenses." After I said this, she awkwardly muttered an apology. "Well, that was my mistake. We're family, so come back." "I'll forgive you. Let's live together happily again." Her convenient words disgusted me. "Sorry, but I'm not planning to be your cash cow anymore. Why don't you work full-time and support your parents?" I said strongly, almost as a payback. That finally made her angry, and she snapped back. "That's impossible. I'm a woman after all. Just come back, John. What's that? You don't have a heart to reflect, do you?" Sarah seemed quite upset by my words, but it was already too late. I was appalled by her attitude of still asking for money. "I'm tired of being manipulated by you and your parents. Let's get a divorce." I knew she was calling about money, which is why I didn't want to answer in the first place. But she showed no signs of giving up. Part of me held a sliver of hope that Sarah might have had a change of heart. I was strongly attracted to her bright and carefree nature. I couldn't bring myself to truly dislike her. "Don't say such sad things. We're a married couple, aren't we? I'm in trouble because our savings are almost gone. It's not zero yet, but it's getting dangerously low. Please, I just want you to transfer some money for now." However, as expected, all Sarah talked about was money. She's probably trying to keep her cash cow from escaping, so she's putting up with it. Just hearing her voice irritated me, so I decided to end the call. "Goodbye, Sarah. I'll send the divorce papers soon." I hung up, feeling a sense of relief. It was time to start anew. The next few months were challenging. I moved into a small apartment and focused on growing my video streaming channel. I didn't have much, but I was free from the toxic environment of my former home. My audience grew, and my income started to stabilize. One day, while streaming, I received a message from an old friend, Mark. He had heard about my situation and offered to meet up. We decided to catch up over coffee. "John, I've been thinking about what you told me. I have an opportunity that might interest you. I'm starting a new company and could use someone with your skills." Mark's offer was unexpected but intriguing. We discussed the details, and I realized this could be the fresh start I needed. I joined Mark's company and found myself immersed in exciting projects. The work was fulfilling and I felt valued. My confidence grew, and I began to rebuild my life. Meanwhile, I heard from mutual friends that Sarah's situation had deteriorated. Her parents' gambling addiction worsened, and they eventually lost their home. Sarah had to move in with a distant relative, and she struggled to make ends meet. It was a harsh reality check for her. One day, I received a letter from Sarah. She apologized for everything and admitted her mistakes. She asked if we could meet and talk. Part of me was curious, but I knew it was best to leave the past behind. I wrote back, wishing her well but making it clear that our paths had diverged. Years passed, and I continued to thrive in my new career. I met someone special, Anna, who was supportive and understanding. We built a life together based on mutual respect and love. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that leaving Sarah and her toxic family was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to grow, find true happiness, and build a life that I was proud of. One evening, as I sat on the balcony with Anna, watching the sunset, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Life had its ups and downs, but I had learned to value myself and make choices that led to a brighter future. Years went by, and my life with Anna blossomed. We traveled, explored new places, and built countless memories together. We got married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. My career continued to thrive, and I found joy in mentoring others who were starting their journey in the industry. One day, as I was scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a post from Sarah. It seemed she had found some stability and was working as a freelance writer. The post was about her struggles and the lessons she learned along the way. While I felt a pang of empathy, I knew that we were both better off on our separate paths. Anna and I eventually decided to start a family. The news of Anna's pregnancy was a turning point in our lives. The anticipation of welcoming a new life into the world filled us with joy and excitement. Our son, Ethan, was born on a crisp autumn day, bringing an overwhelming sense of love and completeness into our lives. Balancing fatherhood and work was challenging, but it was a challenge I embraced wholeheartedly. Anna and I made a conscious effort to create a nurturing and supportive environment for Ethan. We wanted him to grow up in a home filled with love, understanding, and respect. As Ethan grew, I often found myself reflecting on my journey. I realized how much I had learned from the hardships and the importance of making decisions that aligned with one's values and well-being. I wanted to pass these lessons on to my son, teaching him the value of self-respect, resilience, and the importance of surrounding oneself with positive influences. One day, while playing with Ethan in the park, I ran into Mark. He had also started a family, and it was heartwarming to see how our lives had evolved. We reminisced about the old days and marveled at how far we had come. "John, it's incredible how life has turned out," Mark said, watching our children play together. "I never imagined we'd be here, but I'm grateful for every step of the journey." "Me too, Mark. It's been quite a ride, but I wouldn't change a thing," I replied, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. As the years passed, Anna and I continued to build a life filled with love, adventure, and growth. We watched Ethan grow into a kind, thoughtful young man, and we supported each other through every challenge and triumph. Looking back, I realized that my journey with Sarah, though painful, was a crucial part of my story. It taught me to value myself, to recognize the importance of healthy relationships, and to strive for a life filled with joy and fulfillment. One evening, as Anna and I sat on our porch, watching the sunset with Ethan playing nearby, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Life had come full circle, and I was grateful for every experience that had led me to this moment. "Anna, I couldn't have asked for a better partner to share this journey with," I said, squeezing her hand. "And I couldn't have asked for a better life, John," she replied, her eyes filled with love. My story was not just about overcoming adversity. It was about finding the strength to make choices that led to a better, more fulfilling life. It was about learning to love and value oneself and creating a life that reflected those values. I hope that my story would inspire others to take control of their own lives, to make decisions that brought them joy, and to always strive for a life filled with love, respect, and happiness. And so, as the sun set on another beautiful day, I knew that my journey was far from over. There were still adventures to be had, lessons to be learned, and memories to be made. But no matter what the future held, I was ready to face it with the strength and resilience that had carried me through the darkest of times.